Okay, so let's start at a blank page here. And we want to start out with a class. So class is going to be called CL Song. Okay, and we will have an initialization method. Okay, so that's the first one. And remember, we have a title, a year, and a rating. So SDR title, I'm going to give these different names just so you can track what's going on here. And start year. And start is long. Let's be a little more lazy than that. I'm going to go default DEF, 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 and I'm going to go with a string rating. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. And inside that initialization method, we have got to set our variables for that object, or our properties for that object. So self dot int title, or str title, because it's a string title, equals str default title, self dot int year equals int default year, and self dot str rating equals str default rating. Okay, so I'm taking these three arguments, plugging them into the variables for each property, and then I'm going to, you added, let's make that an F string, and we're going to go self dot title to the list. So just a little feedback to let the user know that we added that song to the list. So every time we create an instance of that song, that's what we're doing. Okay, so now I'm going to define this string method here, so that I'm going to use this to print out a listing of that song. So return, remember it's not a print, it's a return. So I'm going to create an F string here, and I'm going to say self.str title, and then I'm going to put the rating in parentheses, self.str rating, close parentheses, and then I'll do the year, and again, self.year. Now I'm using self here because I'm referring to the property from this object. I'm not referring to a variable. I'm referring to the property of that object. So that's that. I'm going to return this string, this formatted string with the data in there. So now all I have to do is print that object to get a listing of that song, which will come in handy later on when I want to do things like removing the song or whatever. So now let's do the getter and setter methods, right? We need a getter method for the rating. Get rating equals, that's a method, so we're going to define that. Nothing except self is necessary. And we're going to return the rating, self.int rating. Okay, so we're going to keep the getter really simple. We don't have to do anything with that. Now, we're going to define a setter for that. Set rating, self, and we are going to ask for an integer representing the new rating. And I'm going to do my rating for each song as a string with a number of stars in it. I'm going to use the asterisk for stars. So between 1 and 5 stars. So the new rating is going to have to be an integer between 1 and 5 representing the number of stars. So let's say, again, just like we did before, if int new rating, and let's make that a string explicitly, is numeric. Okay, so first we'll check and see if it's numeric. And if it's not numeric, we're going to say print, please enter a number between 1 and 5. If it is numeric, the other thing that we have to do is check to make sure that it's within the range. So I'm going to use a nested if here. And if int new rating is greater than 0 and int new rating is less than 6, then what are we going to do? We are going to set the rating. So we're going to say self.strRating equals, okay, we're going to say star times int new rating. Okay, so this is this is kind of a throwback to something we did a long time ago, right? Where we took a string and we multiplied it times an integer to repeat that string a number of times. So if I enter a 1 here, it's going to pass all the way through here and it'll print as 1 star for the rating. If I enter a 5, it'll print the star 5 times. So now I'm converting it to a string on the fly. And the only thing I have to do here is put an else here that says print. And I'm just going to use my same error message here. Because why not? All right, so then the rating is not updated there. Okay? But if it is, then we update it here using this. So now I've got my getter, my setter, and the class is pretty well defined. Oops, there we go. Okay, so let's go back to the very end here, and we'll say my song, let's just test this out, equals CL song. Oh, we need to give it some information, or it's going to yell at us. Thriller, 1985, I can't remember if that's the right year or not, and my starting rating here. So let's print my song. Let's test it out. Should print it. Okay, added Thriller to the list. Thriller, 5 stars, 1985. Working so far. Let's see about using our setter. So my song dot set rating, and we're going to change it to 4 stars. And then we'll print it again. Let's see if it works. Okay, so there it is. We printed it, we changed it, printed it again. Everything's working as it should. So now I just have to start building out the list. Okay, so maybe I want to start with playlist equals, and then my playlist append Now I'm appending that song to the playlist instead. And every time I want to add a song to that playlist, I'm going to append it to the list as an object. Okay. So now if I run this, it's going to say I added the 2 songs to the list, as it should. And if I want to, I can iterate through my playlist like this. I can say for OB song in LI playlist, which means it's going to run a for loop against the playlist. For each one, it'll take that instance, put it into that object, and then do whatever I want to it. In this case, I'm just going to have it print OB song. So when I do that, I can go through and print each song. Now, if I wanted to, right, int index equals 1, I can print int index and OB song. And then I can say int index plus equal 1. And now I've got a numbered list that I can then use for other operations. But it just makes it super easy for me to work with this stuff. And if I want to, I can say OB popped equals LI playlist pop. Okay, so OB, let's say print OB popped. Okay, so I can pop something off that playlist, put it into an object variable, and then do stuff with it. Because remember, pop takes something out of the list and then it puts it into a variable. So I can use that to pull something out of the list and then do something with it. And if I want to, I can put it back with the list, or I can print it out, or do whatever. So there's lots of tricky ways that you can use a list and list methods to work with these objects and manage your objects as you start doing this. But really, the tough part is creating the song class appropriately, and then you can kind of go from there. So we've got an initialization where we set those. We've got a string. That this is not required, but I think it makes it a lot easier. And then the getter and setter. So we've got 4 methods that take care of those properties for us. And now we're not accessing properties directly from outside that object, which is a much better approach. And whatever we want to do here, we can do that. If we wanted to store the rating as a number, you could store the rating as a number rather than a string, and you could on the fly have it return that string if you wanted to do it that way. So there's a lot of different flexible approaches that you can take to this that make it possible for you to do things in kind of your own way. And if you wanted to do something like add the artist or other information or create a way to sort your playlist, like there's all kinds of different ways you could do that. Okay, so I encourage you to be creative and stretch it a little bit. The bonus challenge here is, you can see down here at the bottom, is to use Pickle to save and load your playlist data. So that's always a thing you can do. You can serialize any object, including your custom classes, using Pickle, which is super handy in my opinion. So that's it for lecture today. We've got a good chunk of time to work on this. I'd say get into it, and then on Thursday we're going to come back and we're going to have another project that we're going to announce or work through. So in order to keep up, you definitely want to get going on this if you haven't done it already. Any questions?